Hello and welcome. We're up into episode 14 of the worst reselling podcast ever. As you can see, it's only me this time. It's Grumpy Granny. She's just had her operation. She's doing well. I've actually dug up someone else to fill in for her today. But before we get into that, I just want to put a big thank you out for everyone that's actually watched and commented on the previous video we did in regards to the Daily Refinement and Tech and Sport Patreon group. It's doing really well. I'm pleased to say that they've incorporated a couple more changes, which makes it a little bit more worthwhile to the Australians now. I won't say it's there yet, but however, it's moving in the right direction. Brenny and I will probably do a follow-up appointment or a follow-up video probably in about 3 months with any if there is any major changes. So keep an eye out for that. But with further ado, I'll bring in who I've dug up to talk to us this week. Hello, Jon. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
It's a big responsibility to fill in for Granny because everybody loves Granny, and hopefully same amount of love here. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yes. Well, like I said, it's an honor to work with the Octopus. But hey, look, it's good to see you dug up again because we haven't seen you since I think it was episode 4 that the ice cream truck swung by and picked you up.
I've had a haircut since then, so I'm trying to get back to normality.
Yeah, well, that's good to see. Oh, it's good to see.
So
what's
you're a bit of a masochist. You left me in there, and I said, "Look, I just need scissors to cut my hair." But you went, "No, if it gets too miserable, you might kill yourself." In which case, I went, "Don't think I will." But so it's like you wanted me to suffer, and you wouldn't give me a way out. And I said I wanted to groom myself, and you wouldn't let me either. So at one point, I think my hair was all the way up to about here, and
yeah.
But you know what?
Well, you did look like that guy.
I don't understand. It's a complicated relationship, and that's what life is, and it's a very human thing to embrace the complicated and the complex. So there.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the Octopus likes to keep it a bit more torturous than Granny likes. Granny's probably the more level-headed out of our duo. So when she's not around, I let the hostages out sometimes. But so how's everything been going on your way? I've seen you've continued your live stream since we spoke last, and you're also incorporating one through the day.
Yeah. So listing live streams Tuesdays and Fridays now. So Tuesday nights at 9:30 till 2 a.m. Those have been going really well. In fact, last night we had an American Sagan who actually came on and had a chat. So we had like a two-way conversation for an hour towards the end of last night's one. And then the Thursday night, the energy started dying down. So we tried to move it to a daytime slot because there were some people during the daytime that were like, we're not going to stay up. You are someone who doesn't want to stay up as well. So then Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, we've got another session. So 2 4-hour sessions. And full disclosure, I'm doing it for me as well because it helps me get my work done whilst letting you guys get your work done. So that's really the big win for everybody. Yeah. And it turns out that that's what everybody wants, and at least everybody who comes to my channel, that's what they want. And then it seems like, and it's funny because when you start out YouTube, you try and do multiple videos a week to try and get some sort of traction, figure out what the community wants. Turns out the listing live streams is what they want every single week, 2 sessions, and then the odd video here and there once a week or so. It's like, cool. So then that's kind of what the channel is doing at the moment. That's where the value is at. And we have to listen to our buyers, don't we? We have to listen to our, we'll call them buyers. Our audience are our buyers. We have to listen to our buyers. If we don't listen to our buyers, the business does not flourish.
Well, that's exactly right. So Granny and I, we were approached to do an accountability hour, which I know I've talked about this before, is on a Thursday. So we do ours on a Thursday at 10 o'clock. Then that's quite morphed into something else because, like you said, that your viewership doesn't really... they'll dictate to you to what they want, even though that I'm the dictator in the room. They've dictated to us as to what they want. So we've kind of made it like an accountability themed. It's obviously not as stringent as yours, where you have your listing sessions, then you have your talk sessions. But we don't go for 4 hours. We only go for the hour. So it's definitely, like you said, it's. I think one pre-recorded video and one live video once a week, that's working for us at the moment. So
that's good.
Yeah.
And also, I think with what I've learned with the 4-hour format actually is that you the best way, like how when you enter into a new relationship with anybody, you think about a romantic relationship. Usually the thing is they say the long haul, right? The time, like, yeah, are they spending time with you? And I think when I looked at the 4-hour format, whilst at the start it was meant to be for me to get my listings done so that I can dedicate that time for that listings at least twice a week. The 4 hours has actually made it very clear that there's a level of engagement beyond a certain point, and you see it in the chat as well. You see people opening up at that 1 o'clock mark of a nighttime because we've all kind of they know in the chat are the people that have been here for 3 hours now. So there's almost a sense of safety. It's like, I'm not going to give you my problems at 10 o'clock at night because everyone's just got here. But at 1 o'clock, if you guys are still here, I feel like I can start opening up. And I feel like the best problem solving moments at that, 12:30, 1:30 kind of mark. And that's generally the best way to wind down the session. Things like, hey guys, I'm struggling with my SKUs. What do I do? And then we ask more questions and then we go deeper. And then the chat starts chiming in as well because everyone's of the same mindset. It's like, we've all been here for 3 hours. We all feel safe with each other. So I kind of like that. I like that you can use that time has helped me to understand engagement a lot better as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that they open up. I probably put that down to being delirious at 1 o'clock in the morning, like.
Could be. And apparently some of them drink as well around that time of the night, so it could be that too.
Oh, okay. Hey, look, that would kill me being up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I need to go back to the Octo tank for some beauty rest. Obviously, being a quite a handsome octopus as I am, I need as much as I can get. But I suppose we better move into this week's topic, John. We're going to talk a bit about. So, long story short, we really don't have a defined topic. It's going to be a very fluid topic this week. So I've noticed on Instagram, we've got the tentacles going as well. Look, I could do that.
Fluid.
they're a bit flaccid today. Oh, there we go. Hang on, there we go. Oh, look at this guy.
Look at the camera.
I need to put some CGI tentacles in there. Just it's too much work. Constantly fighting with 9 brains. We've seen a lot of YouTube videos. We've seen a lot of Instagram posts from a lot of people that have been, quite concerned that eBay is not providing the level of, I suppose, output as comparable to what they've put on the input. So basically what they're putting into the system, that they're feeling that eBay is shortchanging them in respect to what they're actually getting sales-wise, or watches, or views, or traffic, and all these different things that roll into the one. And I've actually seen, a couple of people that, the Octopus, follows, personally on Instagram, is that they're moving away from the full-time, reselling gig, and they've moved back into, to part-time or even full-time work just to, take that space up. So what I'm going to do is try and, dig inside that brain of yours and kind of think, a bit of a discussion as to, what you could do to alleviate that, what we can do, to obviously, trying to offset it as well. Because, we're resellers, right? So we're not eBay, salespeople or something along the lines of that. So I think a lot of people, fall into the trap where that they think a reseller is just an eBay person, and they don't look outside that realm. So we want to talk about obviously different strategies you can use to sell different things, but I suppose that's kind of the fluid topic for the moment. We'll obviously go from there. What's your thoughts, John?
My thoughts are that there are people who have systems thinking, and people who have, I guess, an understanding of how the system actually works and why it works. And I sorry, that came out wrong, but I'll put it this way: when you get invited to any sort of like investment seminar, or you get invited to any sort of like a multi-level marketing gig or whatever, right? Usually they'll say, "Oh, just follow our system, follow our formula, and you'll see outcome." And I think that there are definitely a bunch of and when you think about it, that is a sales pitch, which means that for every sales pitch, there's a target audience. And if you're the kind of person that sits there going, "This doesn't make any sense. They're trying to sucker me out of my money. I don't believe in the product." You're not their target audience. It's not because the pitch doesn't work, because there are people who do sign up. Those who are leaning in and listening and trying to understand, how all they really care. They don't really understand. They want to hear they want to hear the formula lead to an outcome. And then if they go, "I can do formula, if I can do formula, I like outcome," they do it. And sometimes, obviously, it doesn't happen that way. More times than not, because a formula, we're human beings, our circumstances are different, our finances are different. And oftentimes these pitches can tell you need a minimum of $10,000 to invest. You need to have this many hours of work. You need to talk to this many leads a week, and you should see this kind of outcome. But once again, they always have this results may vary, right? And I think eBay can sometimes be viewed that way, where people don't critically think about why a product leaves you and arrives at a buyer in exchange for money. They just go, I have some vague understanding of a formula or a system that if I put something in, I should get an outcome back. And then when it doesn't start working that way, they have no idea how to troubleshoot. And I think what you and I have in common is that we enjoy troubleshooting. We enjoy this process of figuring out why it works. And so when we meet people who are frustrated with eBay or frustrated with what Amazon or whatever other platform they sell on, we are actually more frustrated at the fact that they've done this for a while, but they still don't quite understand why it works. And how do you go through? And I think it's a bit unfair for people like you and me who enjoy breaking things apart and seeing the pieces come together, for us to judge them, because the fact is it's very human to go through. You think about married couples who get divorced, right? Like, it's very easy to just do life, and then one day it all falls apart, and both people get a bit surprised because resentment builds up because you just never spend time together, but you don't keep track, you're not aware. So I think lack of awareness isn't deliberate. It can be a very human condition, which is why I think when you think about reselling, it's an active assessment. It's constantly learning and really being part of community to understand why pieces work together the way they do. And I think the fact that reselling also is so diverse by category, just simply like when you observe this, people will come into reselling. They will pick a bunch of products because other people sell those products and then find out that they can't sell those products. But then when they have conversations, they realize, wait, we were bundling because we thought we bundle will save time. But then by bundling, the buyer doesn't want it anymore because they want 2 items of the 10, but you're insisting they must take all 10. They don't understand. They don't understand that by removing choice, you're also removing profit margin from yourself. So things like that. I think that's probably where the core of it lies, but also where the core of salvation lies, because simply understanding how pieces work means that you can take that pattern and then move it to a different platform, move it to a different arena. You can go from online to online to offline. Yeah.
And I think
this podcast might be done in 15 minutes.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, I doubt that. So I suppose the experience that I see is that a lot of people, and I think you kind of alluded to this as well, is that they do the initial research. If they do any research at all, they throw the item up hypothetically for $39.99, and they leave it sit there. Then 6 months down the track, they wonder why this item hasn't sold, and they don't know the niche enough, or they don't keep on top of the niche enough to actually keep digging down into it and say, hey, look, this has become what was originally a scarce item has now become quite plentiful. So that $39.99 now has gone down to possibly $14.99 or something like to this, and these people say, well, I'll just keep it at $39.99 because that's my profit. No, that's the price I need to get to to make it profitable or worth my time. Is that and that's and if you believe the conspiracy theories on eBay, is that could be part of the problem, because people are clicking on your item or they're not clicking on your item, and eBay's not directing traffic to you because your items aren't they're not eye-catching or they're not jumping out. Obviously it's a bit different if you're using really good glamour shots that you've taken photos, and I've seen your shots, John, and they're quite impressive. But if they're clear and concise, they're actually really decent photos, you can command a little bit extra than the market price. Comparing to people that taking photos in a dark room and you can barely make out what the item is, let alone anything else. But to go from a $14.99 to a $39.99 jump because the market's changed, it's not sustainable. And these are the things that I'm finding in the community at the moment, is that the people that are moving away from reselling or all these different things, is that they're getting caught up with roadblocks. And I think that's probably something I'll probably focus on today, is that they say the thrift store prices are rising. There's no buyers around it. Watching the YouTubers in the States, that eBay is crashing to the ground, all these different things. So it almost looks like they're looking for an excuse to get out, or to make it more complicated than it is.
it's funny with people who, especially those who have an online presence. Sometimes the most gracious way to leave is to just not say anything and fade. But I think there's a like I asked myself if okay, I was talking to, I don't think it was Mel, it might have been Chris. We're talking about how subscriber numbers don't really mean much. Not because you guys don't mean much, but it's like the behavior that a platform sets you up to do is to subscribe and never unsubscribe. And so really, if I stop doing the listing live streams, and let's say I was just putting out videos, me talking at you, no listing live streams, no engagement, no desire to get to know you, your names, whereabouts in the country or the world you are. Just I want to talk and you guys listen, and if you listen and I'm entertaining enough, I get paid for it. Let's just say that was my model, right? If I stop talking, you probably wouldn't notice because you have other things that will take your attention. The algorithm continues to feed you things. And for the most part, you've got more subscriptions than you can possibly put your eyeball to in a lifetime. So therefore, for me to feel like I must tell you that I'm leaving, I kind of feel like there's a certain level of almost arrogance and narcissism there. And I think a lot of the YouTubers, they are a bit like that. They when they leave, they feel the need to do this big announcement. They feel the need to go, eBay's dead. I've been struggling, da 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 da. And I go, hold up a second. Why is this necessary? Not that I don't care about your situation, not that I don't care that you're struggling, but why is this announcement necessary? Because the thing that you're giving back to the community through that announcement is that it's too hard. I have failed. I couldn't figure it out. So you're almost like, and if you think about it, if people are worshiping you, if people are following you, hoping that you are going to be a giver of hope, you've essentially just gone, yeah, sorry guys, no hope here. That's not fair. And that's not fair. It's not kind. It surely isn't caring. It's very, it further frames the video, in my opinion, anyways, as selfish. And you guys can hammer me in the comments, by all means do that. But I feel like as someone who now as a parent, I think to myself, if I were to give an announcement to my children, and I think the YouTuber audience dynamic is a bit like that, a lot of times the audience follows like children follow parents. You're leading by example, they are following, they're picking apart your videos, going, they do this, I'll do this too. They pack this way, I'll pack this way too. They see profit in this item, I'll try and find the item. So how is it that you can ride the wave of all that praise, and then the moment you fall, you suddenly just, I refuse to cry in front of my kids? No, you have to give them both, because human beings are like that. You have to allow them to carry both. And I think in that sense, a lot of times when these announcements come out, they are also with thumbnails that are like, eBay is dead, like I'm giving up reselling forever. You're leaving the audience in a bit of a limbo state. And then the audacity to go, but by the way, whilst you're at it, follow me and do a different thing. And by the way, whilst you're at it, I'm pivoting the channel to talk about self-improvement. I'm like, wait, what? How? In what planet do you think you should be doing that? Like which then when you think about like the narcissism, selfishness, arrogance kind of thing, that's the only lens I can see it through. Every other, it doesn't make sense. You don't care. And so I think when we look at it from, if we're talking it from a, how does the community deal with that and find, I guess, hope? It's that you have to acknowledge not everybody cares. In which case, then when you see the doom and gloom and you understand it comes not from a place of care, you will have permission to not factor it in. At the end of the day, you're all businesses. I'm talking to all of you, small resellers, big resellers. You're all individual businesses. You have the permission to not care about these things, because it's just another opinion at the end of the day. Back to the original point about how you've got more subscriptions than a lifetime. You have the option of unsubscribing and only keeping the ones that give you hope, and give you the ones that give you the tools to actually do, rather than the messaging of I can't. Funny thing, actually, today I was having a conversation with my son. So I asked my son to help my daughter with something. She refused to let him help, and he got really frustrated. And then she's 4 and he's 7, so that's the age, right? So he was having a bit of a cry. Anyways, she comes to me, hands me her pants, and she's like, I want you to put it on for me. And I go, no, I told your brother to help you with it. And then he started like, she won't let me. She always doesn't let me. And I said, no, hold up. She doesn't always not let you. And he goes, well, most of the time. I said, no, not even most of the time. Just this time. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. But what you should tell yourself is, she's not letting me help me this time, and it's okay. I'll try again next time. She's not helping me this time, but it's okay. She might let me help her next time. And the point being is, I said to him, in a moment of feelings, you're telling yourself a lie, which is all the time, I can't do this. If you get a question wrong at school, in a moment of feeling, you say, I am not smart. It's an absolute statement. It's a lie, but in a moment of feeling. Once the feeling goes away, you keep telling yourself that lie. And I think with YouTube, it's a lot like that. You allow the messaging of a lie because it's the opinion of someone who is failing, someone who's in a moment of feeling, and they spread this lie. And then as the audience, once that feeling is gone, you don't ever hear about the YouTuber correcting themselves. Very rarely do you hear that because the accountability isn't there. But the lie is left with him and the lie is left with you guys. And I don't like that. So once you call that out, and to that point about, I like this chat. Like I told you, Octo, we're gonna get animated. When you think about the desire to break something down to understand why it works the way it works, you take those words, you go, okay, I recognize that a lie has been left with me, and I have permission to leave it alone. Because the fact is, eBay is not dead. Far from it.
No, that's right. Yeah, and I suppose, yeah, and a lot of people, like you said, it's quite self-serving as well as that. But it's almost a lot of these titles are clickbait. Yeah, they hear, oh, eBay is dead, I'm giving up, and all these different things. Yeah, they'd probably make reference at 2 sentences in the video, and that's it. Yeah, obviously they move on from there. Yeah, obviously they're trying to, further, either I suppose, rally their audience, or make their audience probably apprehensive, or all these different things, and quite possibly that, like you said, is that the audience adopts that as the truth. So hypothetically, it's possibly one way of taking out your competitors, because obviously, if you're a YouTube star, or sorry, a YouTuber with 100,000 followers that all follow you in the reselling space, there's possibly 100,000 people that potentially your competitors. But obviously, if you're looking at selling them, fear mongering and telling them that eBay's dead and all these different things and reselling's over and all these different aspects, you could be clearing the market of potential competitors. Those people will continue watching you because they like you, or they find you charismatic, or they have some sort of fascination with that YouTuber. It could possibly be like, I suppose, a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. I suppose, that they take the YouTuber as what for gospel is that, and it's almost like a Mexican wave or a tidal wave. That once one YouTuber jumps on that certain topic, you'll see 7 or 8 videos follow it. It might be coincidental, or it might be just it's that the algorithm is obviously moving in that direction, and that's all the different things what's going on. But I think people probably need to self-reflect and see how their personal stance is, because. And I've been guilty of it as well. Is that I get sucked in by the eBay's dead propaganda machine, and for the next couple of days you might be feeling a bit flat, and you're not putting as many listings into eBay, or your quantity of listings or the quality of the listings is not what they should be. And the fruit of that labor is that slow down sales, slower traffic, and all these different things. So it almost becomes like a secondary effect, where you're watching this YouTuber, you're obviously believing them, or and like I said, I'm not dismissing to say that what's true and what's not true, but if you're obviously getting absorbed into what's being said, you can be potentially fall into that trap as well.
And it's when somebody, to the point where someone says something in a moment of feeling, right, and they will go, the way I'm feeling is all negative at the moment, so therefore this whole thing must be negative. And then to say it out loud and not acknowledge that you've spoken something, and people don't some people will laugh at this and go, oh, it's woo-woo kind of stuff, because it's the power of words and manifesting and all that kind of crap. But the fact is, language has power, language has meaning. People will, like, just something as simple as, you heard the one where when someone says, I feel nervous before I go to do a talk, and then a speaking coach will tell you, don't say you're nervous, just say I'm excited. I'm excited, because when you feel nervous, you feel embarrassed that you can't contain your energy. You feel embarrassed that every tick, every fidget on stage will be noticed as a sign of lack of control, will be noticed as a sign of failure, lack of composure. When you're excited, lack of composure, completely forgivable, acceptable. When you're excited to do, when a child is excited to do something, whoa, they go on stage and they're like, yeah, how's everybody doing? Lack of control of your body and your limbs, do whatever. Why do you think when I do this, I don't look like I'm embarrassed? Because it's excitement, right? But it's framing, and that's what it is. Language frames things. And I think if you want to be a consumer of content to learn and improve your circumstance, the content will come. The framing is up to you. If you're, and that's something I think, not just, don't even talk about reselling, just as a business person, you have to frame. If you want to be your own boss, you're in charge of your framing. When you go to a job, the job frames it for you. When you become a paramedic, the hospital and the code, whatever the paramedic code is, they frame for you safety first. This is your priority. This is how you should view this situation. When someone is upset, it's okay. It's an emergency. They frame it on your behalf. But the moment you become your own boss, the framing responsibility comes with the territory as well. Which brings us back to that original point about there are some people who come into a place and go, there's a formula and an outcome. That's all I want. No, if you want to become your own boss, formula, outcome, framing, critical thinking, resourcefulness, all of that stuff, right? Learning to manage people, all of that comes with the territory of self-employment. You don't get to be the ultimate boss of yourself and enjoy all that flexibility, but come home, sit passively, and just indulge and take whatever content comes. Because the fact is, it's coming from people who may not care about you, don't know your circumstances enough to care about you. And as a result, you could easily just become worse. You know what I mean? Like, imagine going to work and you don't like that toxic environment because you feel like it's not your place to actively frame. You're in a job. You have to do your work. You don't have that autonomy. Once you have the autonomy and you don't exercise it, it's even worse. You're at the mercy of the internet. The internet's a pretty ruthless place. So yeah. Please acknowledge that you have to frame everything that you hear, because it can either set you up to have a really awesome day or a really rubbish day.
So I suppose that a lot of people don't. I suppose what I'm trying to get at is that, do you think that a lot of people are relying on social media, either through people or through posts, all these different things like motivational quotes and all these different things to frame their day? Is that, like, would you say that that's probably an accurate representation of what you would see out there? Because I find a lot of people that, instead of saying, hey, look, at 7 o'clock I get up and this is where I start working. A lot of people that I speak to is that they say, well, first thing in the morning I do this, or I listen to this YouTube channel, or I listen to this podcast, and all these different things. So they're almost becoming contaminated with, a certain mindset straight up. Instead of saying, hey, look, I'm going to get all my work done out of the way, then I'll indulge in the podcast or all these different things. Because a lot of people tell me, that when I'm listening, I put your podcast on, or I listen to Jon, or I listen to this person, or I listen to these different people. But subconsciously, if we're talking about something, and like you said earlier, we're animated about something, we could potentially change their mindset and have an effect on the outcome of their day. So
I think that's why when Chris and I talk about, and for those who don't know, Chris Furlong, CL Furlong, Australian guy, lives half an hour from where I am. So we do meet up. We talk about it all the time. We say it's easy to we've figured out the game for YouTube, right? If we want to play the game, we can play the game, and get more subscribers, more views, make a lot of money on YouTube. The formula to make money on YouTube is not hard. The elements are there. It's choosing which elements you use so that you can still be responsible for the community that you are looking after. Some people talk about building community, but what that really means is just accumulating people to watch stuff, and if they watch stuff, they get paid. But it's another thing to actually wonder, how do you care for your community based on the things you say? Is it consistent? And sometimes even consistency, two sides of the coin, right? There are YouTubers who worry about consistency, but what they're really saying is, I don't want to be called out for bullshit because I might lose money. That's a selfish motivation. Versus consistency in the sense of, can I build upon what you're learning so that you can build upon what you're doing? And I think that there's a distinction there too. So in terms of, I suppose, if we want to tie up the topic of YouTube and its influence as far as education goes. Just ask yourself, what kind of people do you feel build you up rather than make you feel torn down, really, what it comes down to, right? If you ask yourself, am I bearing fruit? Am I actually seeing more productivity? Am I doing more listings? Am I seeing more sales? Am I thinking about how to improve my business regularly by being here? Stay. If you find yourself watching content rather than working, that's probably content you should watch less of. That's the best way. So when I look at because like I think about my selection of podcasts, right? I go, every time I pick a podcast, I ask myself, is this something I can implement, or is it something that's just commenting? So, for example, there are many podcasts that I listen to where they're just commenting on the state of affairs and giving their opinion on the state of affairs. Like, oh, the other day I went to the thrift and I saw this. The other day I went to the garage and this person did. Oh my gosh, can you believe they did that? It's just commenting. It's banter, right? But I learned nothing from that, and it's just I'm giving my time for nothing that helps me improve my business. But because my frame of mind is I want to keep improving my business, and I've got two businesses. I've got the YouTube thing, I've got the actual reselling thing, which is the main thing. I'm only listening to podcasts that teach me, okay, how do I build a community? How do I work out an integration? How do I, how do I package items differently? How do I apply a markdown? How do I, if I were to create a course, for example, how does that work, right? But the point being is, if your frame is to improve, it's to figure out how to add and build, you'll filter out a lot of stuff, because a lot of the stuff that's online, it's not intended to help you build. It's intended for them to just have a talk and for you to go, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. But every time you agree, you are still watching, and that's deliberate. It's engagement. And as long as you keep watching, YouTuber gets paid, right?
Well, so yeah, that's correct.
Look after yourself, I guess what we're kind of trying to say, like
that's right.
That's for your interest as well, as the viewer.
That's right. And I suppose in closing in that part from my perspective is that, like Granny and I normally say all the time, is look at it from an entertainment purpose. What video are you watching? Are you watching an entertainment purpose video, or are you watching an education purpose video? So obviously that we like to provide some sort of education, but we kind of like err to the side of caution and go entertainment. So obviously take it and reflect and obviously work from there. But like what Jon was saying is that if a YouTuber is portraying to be giving you education, and then you'd have to be looking at it from that perspective to see if that's actually genuine education they're providing, or it's just a running commentary, or it's a reaction. All these different things is that almost like
it's a brag. I mean, a lot of the education stuff is just bragging. Really, people going, when I was this age, I had this, and now look at that. Now I fly a jet. Like, yeah, okay, I get that, but how does that help me? Join my course.
Well, and that's something we find is that we want to be able to replicate it. So that's why Granny and I will be very cautious to say, hey, look, buy this or buy that, because by saying that is that the market becomes flooded if 2,000 people start buying that and trying to sell all those different things. We're not trying to withhold that information, but we're quite responsible in the sectors that we don't want people to to be led down the garden path, for a lack of a better term. To look for that product. You see every year, and Granny and I have spoken about this previously, that they say, well, Lego's more valuable than gold, or Corningware, or limited edition plates and all these different things, Beanie Babies and all these different things. And people get roped into this thing. They go buy all these products, then they get left holding the bag because people have jumped out at the right time. So that's kind of why we try and provide a little bit of education, obviously, to try and make you a reseller, within our ability. However, we prefer to provide a little bit of entertainment, obviously, a bit of engagement and a bit of banter as well. So, but like Jon was saying, was that just really take a step back when you're watching a YouTuber or listening to a podcast, for example, and just see what the basis of what they're trying to do is, and if that's compatible with what you're trying to get out of that video or that podcast.
In terms of so I think then the next thing is when we talk about what happens if there is no eBay, right? What happens if what are your thoughts? Let's just assume that let's just assume we are the minority, and that eBay actually is a sinking ship, what then, dear Octo? What then?
So realistically, and I think that this is going to be quite not selfish, but quite revealing, I suppose, is that I think if there is signs that eBay is falling over, I think you're too late when the videos come out and say, hey, eBay's shut down or eBay's filed for bankruptcy or all these different things, that you probably want to be playing your chess, 3 or 4 moves ahead. So, if you are like, I suppose from this perspective, there's a lot of chatter about eBay going down, all these different things. Me personally, I think eBay is gearing up to be sold to another entity. That's my personal opinion. Take it with what you will. It's not conspiracy theory. That's just how I feel that the current management of the eBay is quite.
Are we talking about an entity that starts with the letter A?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure if that's the entity that will buy them. However, I do think that.
Are we talking about the American A or the Chinese A?
Oh, it could be either or. Yeah, well, I didn't even think of that, but I might be. Probably catering to the second one actually, but I do think that that personally, I think that eBay will probably be acquired by another company, more probably like the later one that you probably suggested, which I didn't think of previously. But like I said, that obviously something's going to take its place. In the US, you've got like Mercari, you've also got Whatnot, and you've got all these different platforms that you can sell on, Amazon included. In Australia, and we kind of alluded to this in our previous episode, is that we really don't have a fail-safe in this respect. We've got Poshmark, we've got Amazon to a limited capacity, and we've got
Gumtree.
Gumtree, that's right. Yes, we've got our version of Craigslist and being Gumtree. Slightly less stabby than Craigslist, but pretty dodgy nonetheless. But I suppose that the serious resellers and the resellers that will probably fare well out of this scenario going forward would be the ones that are actually engaging on different platforms, I suppose, for lack of a better term, is that, start investigating Amazon, start investigating Poshmark and all these different things, and not necessarily go all in. However, just don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Don't think that eBay is going to be here for an indefinite amount of time. Is it a case that is it going to happen in the next 2 weeks? No, I don't think it is. You're probably safe for a short term to medium term, but for those longer term things, start investigating in different ways to move your product. It might be a case of creating a website, creating redirecting traffic to all these different areas. Like John said, Gumtree, Craigslist, Poshmark, all these different things that you can be using and learning. You don't necessarily have to sell mass quantity on there, but if you become familiar enough with that platform or that thing, markets, flea markets, all these different things you could probably look at. It gives you another opportunity, another place to move your product, I suppose.
And I think we've had this wonderful I was thinking about how back in the day new stuff would move around globally while secondhand stuff would move around locally, right? And eBay has kind of provided a means to move stuff around globally. But then if you think about if you no longer have a place to move things around globally secondhand, everyone else is the same, in which case then you could be that person who moves around that one item locally. That's not a bad place to be. I mean, there once was a time when people could feed their families being the only person, the only chemist in town, or the only blacksmith in town, the only tailor in town. And then one day it became a tailor and a crocheter, and then it became a, and a quilter. And so I think there is definitely, local isn't bad, especially if the local is a byproduct of everybody not being able to get the thing globally. So if you think about, if I can't buy I'm not gonna, the local guy doesn't like being local at the moment because I can get stuff overseas. But if I can't get that secondhand item overseas anymore, and he ends up being my only guy, he wants eBay to fail. You know what I mean? So I think if you think about the everything seller versus the niche seller conversation, you owe it to yourself to actually become a niche seller more than not, because you want to be that niche seller in the event that global is no longer an option. Highly unlikely, but I think the secondhand market to me will always be frowned upon, because manufacturers, platform builders will always want to push new. It's more efficient to sell new. barcodes, replenishable, standardized returns policies, shipping policies, and all that kind of stuff, right? So I can understand why nobody wants to build something better for secondhand. And whenever they do, they don't tend to bolster it as much as, like, people like to compare, Amazon can do this, Amazon can do that. Oh, but eBay can't. Yeah, because Amazon can standardize a lot more than eBay can. And then you guys and then when eBay goes, okay, we don't know all the things on our platform because it's so diverse, we let you sell bloody, peen-shaped potato chips, right? Like Cheetos that look like chickens, you know what I mean? So we let you guys do that, half-eaten sandwiches, bottles of air from a Katy Perry concert. Please put in item specifics. Everybody gets upset. Great. So eBay tries to standardize stuff and you guys get upset and you wonder why it's not more efficient than Amazon. So like if the people don't, so I think that's it, right? There's always going to be some means to move stuff secondhand, but no one's going to build it. And because it's just hard, it's a lot harder. And so but recognizing that there's always going to be demand for it means that you owe it to yourself as a reseller to understand the skill of moving used things. And that involves having a feel for the market. And by having a feel of the market, it doesn't mean join a bolo group and hear the names and whatever. You need to understand why it's a bolo, which means the reason why this Lego set sells is because it's a Lego set that is in between this Lego set and this Lego set, and that's why this one has its value right here. Or it's above these Lego sets, but you can't get it anymore. That's why its value is here. You don't just grab it and go, this is the value and it's static, it'll stay forever. No, that's not how it works. And you need to actually spend time in that space, which is more likely to happen if you're a niche seller, right? Because you're getting more reps doing the same thing rather than going to an op shop. The thing I don't like about op shops is not because the pricing is going up, it's because you're in an environment that doesn't help you understand your category. If you go to an op shop, you see valuable t-shirts next to crappy t-shirts. You see broken toys next to, gem toys. It doesn't tell you anything about the toy you're selling or the clothes you're buying to sell. It just tells you that it's cheap. But the moment you take that same t-shirt and you go find it in the actual manufacturer's store, and then that store in the shopping center is next to a bunch of different stores that are supposedly of the same price range and same target, like Gucci and Hermes are going to be on one end of the shopping center, whilst Target, Kmart are going to be on the other, and then Nike somewhere in between. It's deliberate.
Yeah.
So if you just go thrifting to hunt for stuff, you don't get that understanding. You have to then go and spend time with the brands themselves in the new environment so that you understand, right, there's a reason why the one that I picked up for $1 is selling, because mint green hasn't been sold for the last 5 seasons. And somehow mint green is in fashion, but this brand hasn't bothered to put up mint green because they want to do rose and salmon instead. So now I understand why the mint green top is selling for brand new prices. It's not because it's a bolo, it's because the color just happens to be trendy. Get it? So by 2 seasons later, if somebody is still saying that it's a bolo in a bolo group and you pick it up and you can't get the same price, it's because you lack understanding and you lack context. It's not because the item doesn't have any value. Yeah. So I think there's a lot more work involved. But once you work out that skill, you'll spot it everywhere. That's the best part. Do you remember when the Mazda 3 came out and the most popular color was that green? The Mazda 2.
Oh, vaguely.
It was like this. It's like the small hatch, the small Mazda hatch, and then Hyundai came up with the i20 in a lighter shade of green, and it was like one of the more popular cars because they just had it in green. No one else was making a green car, and I think that's the so. So I think when you if you are actively improving as a reseller, you become better at pattern spotting, and you actually don't feel as threatened by your platform disappearing because you'll spot that pattern anywhere. You could open a flea market store. You could, work in retail. You could get jobs anywhere because you spot patterns. It's a skill that people try and teach with e-courses, and it doesn't work that way. You have to kind of do and spend time and observe and touch and actually buy and sell and put your money into it.
That's exactly right. And that's what we had on the last time we were discussing everything first and niche seller is that, and you're 100% correct. If you drill down into a certain niche or maybe 2 or 3 niches, obviously spices a variety of life, but you're going to, like you said, you're going to notice the trends, you're going to notice the products, you're going to notice what sells, what doesn't sell. So for in case what you're saying with Lego is that, it could be because it's retired, or it could be that certain minifigure only appeared in that set. So whilst the set itself, might have been on clearance for $20 for 3 years, that minifigure's never be made again. So now it's a $700, Lego set, all these different things. So these are the things you'd only know if you knew that product back to forward. Like, that you can't just go into an op shop. And we seen something on the Facebook group the other day, was that someone was asking about Lego. What's the best way to, what to sell Lego? Is it better to sell it by the kilo, or is it better to, take out the generic stuff and all these different things? And 116 different people giving their responses, and that you need to sell genuine Lego as genuine Lego. It's the generic stuff's not sought after, and it's not all these different things. And that's something you would only know if you were a Lego seller in that respect. So I suppose that there is, and like you're saying, going to the off shops or the thrift store, is that it's almost like a sunken treasure kind of a scenario. Is that, of course there's going to be something that hasn't been caught in the thrift store by the people that actually price the items, because they don't know what it is. But unless you know exactly what that item is, you'd be spending the whole day there, looking for something that may turn a profit. But obviously, if you go in there, you're looking one specific item, it's not there, you can move out and go to another place, or you can source from another place, and all these different things. So
so I saw somebody put up a listing for action figures, and in there were some like artifacts, like not artifacts, MFX action figures, like super articulated, like Spider-Man figurines, right? That go for like $90 brand new. And then, but they were also thrown in with a bunch of fake figurines and a bunch of like Dragon Ball Z stuff, a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. And essentially there were some good figurines there, but because they were all in a tub, and then the description was, "I'm selling it for my son. Make me an offer." So then I make them an offer. And then they say, "Oh, we're actually wanting like, at least $20 a figurine." And I said, "You're not going to get $20 a figurine." And they're like, "Oh, but we paid, this much brand new." And I went, "Okay." Didn't bother saying anything else. But because from that point on, there's no way you're going to meet
no.
But in my head, I'm like, the thing had value because it's meant to be a display piece. You've turned it into a toy, and then you're expecting it to still hold its value. Like you've literally used up all its display value. It's literally now just a toy. It's an articulated toy, but it's not a toy it's not a figurine that was meant to undergo the stress of play. And you've given it the stress of play, but you're still like, you think to yourself, "Oh, a third of its value should be fine." Like, no, it's not. The figure is not going to hold anymore. And you can tell because you can see it looks like this in the box, like that, like it's bending. Like a collector looks at it and their heart just goes, "No." And so, as a toy, it's literally $5 a figurine at most. You know what I mean? But I think some people. Conversely, you take an old Land Cruiser. An old Land Cruiser will still fetch top dollar because the cosmetics don't matter. It's the guts. It's the guts, and it's the drivetrain. It's the suspension. It's the way that it's supposed to perform. It'll still perform even though you've beaten it up several times, right? Compared to the toy situation. And I think as resellers, we must understand why something retains its value and why something completely loses its value.
Yeah, and I'm finding that a lot more in, I suppose in the secondhand market space as well. Like you were saying before, is that if it's a new item that they could command a certain price because that's the retail price and that's what's sold by the manufacturer. Is that, but especially with Facebook Marketplace, is that it's almost turned into a de facto eBay place. Where people are asking top dollar for secondhand junk, for lack of a better term. And like you're saying, there's a diamond in the rough. So out of that tub of figures, you may have said, "All right, I'll pay $20 for the tub," and expect that maybe 2 or 3 of those will probably net $30 or $40 to come back for a figure. But obviously you can't get much more than that. And when they're realistically asking for for that obscene amount of money, it becomes a bit ludicrous. And you see it across everything. You see it specialized collectors, Facebook pages and all these different things. They're commanding, obscene pricing and I think I touched on it either last week or the week before, is that there's a Nintendo Switch game. It sells on eBay for $110 because it's been retired by Nintendo. This person in the Facebook group wanted to sell it for $180 because he knew what it was worth. And it's kind of like, well, not only do you want to charge me $180 for the purpose of collection, but you're also going to charge me on postage on top of that for the convenience. Where I can get it, off eBay with every seller protection or buyer protection under the sun, for $110 and delivered. So that it's moving to a point where I suppose that is it the secondhand market going to be realigning for a lot of things? Obviously that a kind of a crash because figures are people are selling it up higher than what it is and all these different things. So it'd be quite curious to see what happens in that respect.
I feel like there are as resellers we know that there are very few things that are so rare that you can't get your hands on them. You know what I mean? Like I think about Lego sets, right? There are Lego sets that are hard to find, but you will see them, 2 or 3 get listed every month. And then there are genuinely hard to find ones. Like you think about, those 10, how many, like the giant Millennium Falcon, for example, new in box. That's something that's going to be, when you think about, is it hard to find? That's a really hard to find piece. In which case, then if somebody wants to price it as twice eBay's price, makes sense because it's very hard to come by. Somebody who wants to build it, and may want to build it as part of a 10-year wedding anniversary with their spouse who happens to love Star Wars. They met in the first Star Wars movie when they were, however many years old. If there's a deadline, there's a nostalgia, there's a plethora of reasons to justify the purchase. They'll pay what's it worth now, by the way, like $3,000.
It fluctuates. I think, I haven't checked for a while, so I wouldn't be able to give you a definitive answer.
Okay.
But I know
they'll pay that amount because it will make their 10-year anniversary like the most amazing thing ever, right? But apart from those kinds of items, which I guess are those grail items, everything else isn't. And so when I look at people pricing not grail items like they are grail, I like it because it means I now have permission to go and source an undercut price. And I thank the delusional seller for providing me a price anchor.
Yeah, well, that's a valid point as well. Yeah, I suppose I never thought of it from that perspective. Is that and
I want them to keep that price. I want them to hold that price, and even better if they are of the mindset of I know what I've got. I'm happy. I'm not going to lower the price for 6 months. Brilliant. So that's my window to sell my items then.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Like you said, that as long as there's not too many on the market, because it comes, I suppose it gets to the point where the lower ones will end up being flushed out by being sales and all these different things.
And here's the thing, right? On Facebook, places like Facebook, there is no quantity counter. So I love it when somebody prices an item at say $500 when really eBay is doing say $400, and then you come there with a post and say $350. And then you get all these comments of sold, next in line, next in line, and you go message them directly, right? And then if you could have six in the spare room, you can move all 6 at $350. Okay.
Yeah.
The person who's listed at $500 doesn't know you've done that. The whole time they're thinking this $350 person is such an idiot. He should be asking for $5. Who's the sucker in the room?
That's right.
See,
that's right. That's a valid point as well. And that's something that obviously got to look at. Well, like I said, that's something. A strategy. It's a workable strategy, which is good.
This actually is a nice little segue onto I feel this one more thing is that every platform works differently, and you have to understand how every platform works. We've just pointed out on Facebook, no quantity counter. So even though you see a competitor selling for X amount of dollars, they're not going to tell you how many units they sell. Compared to eBay, there is a quantity counter, and you can see how deep a sale will go at a certain price point. Obviously, it's not going to be completely transferable because of different radiuses of reach. With eBay is a global market versus Facebook is more people globally in a interest group. So therefore, if they're not in the group, they don't count. Things like that. Understand, you can marry up the data more or less to understand that at a certain price point, you'll see your sales go a certain depth. And so I think as resellers, when you ditch that, the formula should work approach and actually understand why eBay works the way it does versus why Facebook does versus why creating an Instagram account with photographs and messaging for sales versus an Etsy store versus Amazon versus creating your own website. If you understand how each site works differently and how they could potentially work together, you start to feel less. You start to not believe when people say eBay is dead. That's all I'm going to say, because you appreciate why eBay will remain alive. And I think that even if somebody buys out eBay, they will appreciate why eBay should remain the way it is. They might make a couple of technical adjustments to make the site work better, but for the most part, they'll understand why it has its place, because every other place cannot do what eBay does. Let's just put it that way. They can't. Facebook, we've talked about this. Facebook doesn't have the same reach. Facebook reaches more people in the world than eBay, but your marketplace on Facebook doesn't. Facebook can reach more people in the world than eBay, but your buy, sell, swap group doesn't. Because at the end of the day, it's more geographically tied, whereas eBay is not. So that's kind of, I think, when you understand that, you recognize why an item should be sold on eBay. You understand why it should be sold on eBay with the fees that you pay on the item and the shipping and the import taxes. You appreciate it, because if I take all those fees away and put it in a buy, sell, swap group, I'm fielding more messages. There are no buyer or seller protections. I don't even get the asking price I want. And plus, you have to have a lot of the beauty of eBay, no feedback. You guys stress about feedback, negative feedback, all that kind of stuff. You know what's feedback? Feedback is putting that price on a Facebook group and having a bunch of guys call you wanker, scalper, idiot. I saw this at half the price last month. I can pick this up at my local Big W. Yeah, but it's not my local Big W.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you think that's bad feedback, Facebook is brutal feedback. Facebook,
that's
people
right.
just, all the keyboard warriors comes with the territory. I'll take the fees over that.
Yeah,
because I don't want this to be part of my. When we talked about framing and messaging and dealing with what you allow into your day, I would rather pay let's say 3% more in fees net overall than to deal with that shit every single day, because that doesn't set you up to have a great day. And furthermore, can you imagine dealing with that nonsense every single day and arguing back? When someone will eventually, you see these sellers break as well quite visibly. They'll be like, "Go fly a kite, go suck or whatever," and they feel the need to give one back. Guess what? Let's say they do that. 2 hours later, the kids come home from school. Is that really a dad who is prepared to be soft and tender to their children, or is that a dad who's pretty riled up, pretty pissed off, needs a beer to calm down and watch some telly? So you need to think about the holistic approach to your business. If you're not the kind of person who benefits from being in the area, which we would argue very few people are, very few people have the thick skin and I guess the don't care to be in that environment. For the most part, especially if you've grown up in a more online than offline environment. I mean, back in the day, if you used to work in offices and work in markets and stuff, that back and forth is normal, right? You see that with like old Italian grandpas yelling at each other, but you don't see that in the online environment. So if you've grown up in an online environment, you're a younger person, that's actually quite toxic for your mindset. You're better off doing the eBay thing.
That's right. And like you said, you pay fees, for the anonymity. Yeah, like because you put it on eBay, you can name your store whatever you want, and it just goes in a bag and gets sent off to whoever it goes to. Yeah, there's no name attached to that.
Call yourself the kind scalper.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah. So it looks like someone's trying to have a go at your scalping, but yeah, no. Well, I think that might be it for us for this week, John. But thank you very much for coming on and
wow, that flew by.
Giving us your. Yeah, no, like they say, time flies when you're having fun. But it's good to get, I suppose, like a bit of a flesh out session, opposed to having just one topic. Like we said, it was going to be more of a fluid conversation, and just depending where it went through what we spoke about. But I suppose wrapping up is that we spoke about a lot of things, obviously, from eBay to YouTubers and Facebook Marketplace and all these different things, and it really comes down to, like you said, framing where your business lies at this time. Obviously that, do you need to do it on eBay? Does it need to be on Facebook Marketplace? If you're looking into the YouTube realm, do you want to, either as a consumer or a content creator, and all these different things, you need to, I suppose, have some sort of framed outlook as to how you want to go. And I suppose just go where the sales are, or, get, like you're saying, go where the viewers are, all these different things. But you really need to take it with a grain of salt, and, just see how things play out, I suppose.
for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, just recognize you're building a skill. Recognize that you're reselling isn't like some bastard child of a career that you took because you didn't want to do your job anymore. You learn a lot about running a business. You learn a lot about products. You learn a lot about exchanging value. It's a great learning ground. Don't discount that. And
That's
I
right.
think, especially in the why I'm so passionate about it is because I went to business school and I learned more about running a business doing eBay.
That's right.
There's you don't let people who don't understand it tell you that what you're doing is a waste of time. You need to document it, you need to apply and improve. And I think there comes a point when you start to notice you'll go into a business and you'll see why it works and why it doesn't work. You'll go into a business and ask yourself, wait, why are they not willing to do this, not willing to do that? Why is it that this person doesn't notice when this other person is doing this thing in their business? Shouldn't they be talking to each other? You'll notice all these things. And that's a byproduct of you actually critically breaking apart your business, the platforms you trade on, the products you choose to trade, all of that. So, and once again, if you find that there are too many voices in your world that do not build up your learning, join a reselling community that actually does. I'll pitch mine, right? Every
That's right.
Tuesday, every Friday, listing live streams. My name is Jon the Reseller. Go to the live tab, 2 sessions a week. Come join us, look around in the chat, come say good day, ask questions, get to know people. And what you'll find is you will be built up because that's what we're all there for.
That's right. Yeah. So I pop in occasionally to Jon's lives, and yeah, they're always really good. Yeah, it's a very pleasant community. It's not as if it's a very toxic in any capacity. So yeah, and like I said previously, you should run it with an iron fist, which is something else in my own heart.
With a productive fist.
That's right.
What Octo does is we list for half an hour. I'm quiet. The chat still keeps going, and then for 10 minutes we tend to talk, cover a topic. Obviously, there's a big topic. Then we talk for longer. But there's 30-minute intervals where we actually just list quietly and get our listings done, and
That's right.
gain confidence from doing. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah. And obviously that you can catch the replay as well. Yeah, Jon puts them on YouTube, all different things, because let's face, and he has gone to a model where he's offering a daytime listing accountability hour or accountability 4 hours as well. So they're also on YouTube. So if you do miss them or they fall in line with your time zone, you can pop up and catch the replay. So no, it's definitely worthwhile. But please check out Jon's channel. I'll make sure I put it in the listing description down below. But without that, Jon, I think we should say goodbye for another week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun.
No worries. Yes, pleasure. It's always good without Granny. We can actually have some meaningful conversation.
Don't say that. Granny, we wish you well. A wonderful recovery.
Yes.
If you're watching this, we wish you well. We want you to come back stronger and more grounded in your back.
Well, put it this way, I've been speaking to her quite frequently, and she's just as spicy as always. So she should be back in probably not next week, the week after, I dare say. Depending on, we're not going to rush her back. So we do have some more guests lined up coming forward. And she's more than welcome to come back at any time. We might even send the white fan out for her if she's lucky. But yes,
tumble her into the van, give her back a test.
I don't know. I was about to say she might get the handbag and start beating on the minions. I'm not too sure at this stage. But anyway, we'll say goodbye for another week. But thanks for coming on, Jon. I'll put your details in the description below, and we'll see you next time.